Welcome back to Spirit on Demand. Oh, wow. Let's talk about intuition. So, I hope you're watching this episode today because I want to start with something that a lot of people believe and then some people don't believe at all. And that's called intuition. Now, we've often talked about the fact that there's a mother's intuition and that it's just something that like intuition is knowing something that you couldn't possibly know because you have no evidence to show that you would know it. And for a lot of people that might mean being able to predict the future or know what's going to happen or just know in the moment something that's going to happen. But what I know, and this is just from my reading, my learning, my training, my experience with others, is that we're all born with a natural form of being intuitive. And intuitive is also about when you go within because you have a knowing, you have a knowledge, we have a wisdom, we have an inner wisdom, whether you're using it or not. And a lot of people really don't understand that it's like a gift or a skill that you can actually use. You can train it, you can develop it, and then it also helps you be able to perhaps make better decisions and move forward. I mean, I know that a lot of you sometimes you have to make a decision on something and you just kind of close your eyes and you go, well, I think this is the right decision. But then some of you, you have a decision to make and you panic and you're not sure which direction to go and you're not sure like, oh, I need to ask people. I need to go and get outside answers. I need to get outside information. And that's when a person may not be using their intuition. It doesn't mean that you can't ask others about helping you make a decision, but in the final run of asking others to help you, the final decision should really be with you. So, I would like to share with you today how you could develop your own intuitive skills and be able to use that in your everyday life and be able to um, create maybe a better sense of balance or a better sense of peace as you navigate life each day. I mean, we know life brings us a lot of challenges in everything that we do. But if you are able to tap into your own intuitive wisdom, you can make that ride for yourself a lot easier. So let's kind of start out with my first way of developing my intuition to a higher level. So as I said I said in previous podcasts that I was just naturally intuitive and it began to develop on its own. But it got to a certain level and I realized that I wanted to really tap in even deeper. And I also wanted to feel confident about the information that I was receiving. So I took a tarot class. And I took a tarot class from the person who actually designed the tarot cards. And it was a good start for me because I had direct insight, I had direct training, direct knowledge from the person that actually designed the cards. And as I learned how to use these cards, I realized that very quickly my intuition just kind of shot up to a much higher level. So I tell a lot of people, especially customers in my shop, that you do not have to be or acknowledge that you're intuitive in order to use tarot cards or even oracle cards. However, the more you use them, the more you read the descriptions and you connect to the cards, the more intuitive you will become. And you will actually open your intuition when you do that. The cards don't necessarily have to be just tarot and or oracle. It's great because they bring you information and then you can figure out how you want to link that information, whether it's to yourself or whether it's to another person. You can even just take pieces of paper and put words on them and put inspirational sentences and all kinds of things. And you can put them in a box and then you can just ask a question and then draw one out. And whatever the word is on that piece of paper is going to connect to you in some way. Developing yourself is pretty easy. So let's talk a little bit about tarot cards. Now, there's a history around tarot cards. I won't get into all the details about tarot, but tarot's been around for many, many years. It's suspected that it came initially out of Asia, and also has to do with Egyptian, a lot of Egyptian rituals and history. And it just kind of moved along over the years because they were symbols. And then it eventually, tarot cards were designed, and the artwork on the tarot cards, the original deck, the Rider-Waite, was commissioned by different sponsors, and artists put the artwork together, and then the cards were formed. And in the beginning, supposedly only royalty was able to access cards and use them. And or they had maybe an in-house fortune teller or jester or someone who was the wise one that would show them how to interpret them or how to use them. But over the years, tarot cards became a tool for people to be able to intuit information. And then, of course, tarot cards, the original Rider-Waite deck is divided into the major arcana and the minor arcana. And the way I look at them is that the major arcana is what happens kind of overall in your life. And then the minor arcana is about what the details are. And then that gives you more insight and more details. So that's really a great place to start if you want to develop your intuitive abilities. Now, I'm going to give you a really simple way to develop your intuitive abilities, and a lot of people laugh at this a lot, but I use it a lot, and it has certainly helped me in making decisions, and that's just flipping a coin. Believe it or not, you can ask a question and flip a coin. Make sure you call which side of the coin is heads or tails, and with the answer that you get from that coin, you can trust that. And it may not be the answer that you want. I mean, that's happened before. And so I tell the story. The reality is that if you flip the coin, it's going to give you the answer. The universe will give you the answer. And I know there's mathematicians and there's people that say, oh my gosh, no, there's a science of mathematics around this. And if you flip a coin so many times, it's going to say yes and no and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Forget that. Okay, just forget the mathematicians about this and go back and stick to what you trust and what helps you. So I'll tell you a little story. So many, many years ago, right after I left the corporate world and I had my own consulting business, and I was actually doing readings for business individuals and companies, and I had this opportunity from someone who said, here's an offer, this company would love for you to come and teach about creativity and a little bit about listening to your intuition. And if they like what you're putting together, then they will potentially have you go to all of their regional offices and do these trainings. Well, this was a huge offer for me. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. So I jumped right in and started thinking, how would I put this together? But the friend of mine who worked at the company who brought the offer to me said, oh, but however, you need to be here in just like 2 weeks. And, they won't pay your expenses or anything. And so you'll have to provide your own expenses, and any funds that it costs you to put this together to present to them will be at your expense. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do this. So I jumped right in. I started putting things together, and I started spending my time, and I was getting ready. Like, I should book my hotel. I should book my airline flight, all of these things. And I looked on my desk, and there was a penny. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't flip a coin to see if I should be doing this program. And I was like, of course. So I flipped the coin, and I said, should I develop this program and present it? The answer was no. Well, I was shocked. I was like, no, this cannot be. This can't be. I got to do this. And I was really kind of devastated because I was like, Spirit, why would you tell me this? This is a great opportunity. This could bring me a really good income. But then I thought, let me listen to my own words. And my words are, when you don't get the answer you want, you have a couple of options. Your first option is you could say, should I rethink this or should I reschedule this? Which is the first thing that came to mind. And then the next option would be, I'm not clear about the answer. Is there something that I can do or a direction I should move in that would give me more information? Or should I defer to my tarot cards for an answer? But the question that I ask is that, should I defer or should I reschedule this opportunity? And when I flipped the coin, the answer was yes. So that got me to thinking. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to spend quite a bit of money in order to make this presentation. So why don't I delay it until later, and I'll work on the actual presentation part because that doesn't really cost me anything. And I'll delay the expensive part. So I called my friend. I asked if I'd delay it. He came back and said, yes, you can delay it for about 6 weeks. Great. I start working on the presentation. 3 weeks before I would have made my airline reservation and my hotel reservations, I picked up the newspaper, and this was a major corporation. And in the business section of the newspaper was that this company had just filed bankruptcy. And I was like, wow. So I called my friend and he's like, yes, it's crazy here. I'm so sorry. None of us knew that this was coming and it's like chaos. And he goes, I'm so glad that you didn't come earlier and make that presentation because you would have spent all this money now the company is in reorganization. So I walked away that day knowing, wow, when I asked the question of the universe, it knew more than I did. And it also protected me. And it's a tool. A penny is a tool. A tarot card is a tool. A pendulum, if you know what a pendulum is. A pendulum, I probably should have one here, and I'll bring one on at some point. But a pendulum is like a point on a string or a chain, and based on which way it moves, it will give you a yes or a no answer. And, even with your body can be a pendulum. It can move forward or back based on when you answer a question. But there are ways to learn this, and there are ways that you can be taught and how to do that. And we'll do some of that in these podcasts. I'll be actually happy to teach some of these things so that I can spread more of this information throughout the world. But the reality is that when it all boils down to getting an answer, you don't really need anything if you have learned how to truly tap into your own intuitive self. And your own intuitive self is a wisdom. It's a knowledge that lives within you, and you can wake it up. Now, I know there are some of you that are skeptical and you're like, oh, yeah, right. A card or a pendulum is going to tell me what to do. But you'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised. I had a good time once with this was a group of retired gentlemen. And some of them were looking to be like consultants or advisors in this program that was going to help entrepreneurs, because all of these gentlemen they had a lot of corporate skills. They were retired CEOs or COOs, or they were department managers, but they had held really high-level positions in a corporate world. And I was asked to speak to them. And this was a room of 50 men who were all over 65. And I taught all of them how to use a pendulum. And I just used a piece of string with a little washer on the end of the string, and I passed them all out. I gave them the instructions, and I showed them how to use it. And that was the most fun I know I'd ever had, but you should have seen them. They were laughing and joking and having a great time, and they were just amazed that they could get those pendulums to move and give them answers. And I'll guarantee you, some of those men left that room that day thinking differently about life and thinking differently about making decisions in their life and possibly even using that little tool that I made them as they move forward, or even possibly realizing that they had the ability to tap into their own natural wisdom. So you can do that too. You can tap into your natural wisdom. And I don't know if you've ever really experienced this, but children are very intuitive. And sometimes children can give us insight because they're observing us or they're observing others. And because they're still very connected, what I call to the divine energy, they're able to give insight to adults sometimes when adults can't see it themselves. So, developing your intuition is extremely important because it can also help you even in times of danger. Now, there's something else called energy where we feel an energy around us. And the energy can sometimes sense positive and negative. I've had many people tell me that they've gone into a restaurant or a bar or an event or even into someone's home, maybe for a party, and all of a sudden it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like they should be there. And they either listened to it or they didn't. And in some cases, when people didn't listen to that feeling, and it was almost a feeling of this feels like it's pushing against me or it's a fear, when they didn't listen to it, sometimes good things did not happen. Or they just had a challenge on something and they realized that they wish they had listened to their intuition. So it is important to start paying attention to your own intuitive insights, your own intuitive energy, and also to listen to those people who are intuitive while they share with you their experiences. I know that I've had so many intuitive experiences that I couldn't possibly name them all, and I mean, couldn't even write them all out. But I've had so many times where I made a different decision or I made a different choice about where I was going or who I was going to be around or what I was going to do because something just told me, don't do that today. Don't go there today. And it may not be because something bad was going to happen. It could just be that I avoided maybe an argument, or perhaps I avoided an opportunity, or another opportunity came my way because I didn't participate over here in this area. But when I moved to another area or another place or another event, that became an opportunity. So I do want to emphasize, and I want to really ask you to tap into your intuitive senses. So what's the biggest challenge around listening to your intuition? The biggest challenge is trusting and taking action. Many, many people say to me, well, yes, I'm intuitive, but I just don't trust my intuition. And I also say, yes, that's part of it, but you also don't take action. And if you took the action, whether you trusted it or not, then you would find that you actually may accomplish something. Sometimes you must take action in the midst of what I would call fear, because your intuition is telling you this is what you need to do, but then you're going, well, I shouldn't do that. That's your mind telling you. The reality is that if you just take the action, sometimes it takes you into a better place and it takes you into a better understanding of how to trust your intuition. That is the hardest step to take. That was my hardest step. My hardest step was trusting when I got messages from Spirit that I had to have faith, or I had to know that everything would work out. Even though in my mind I'm going, this can't work out, this can't work out. It's just not going to happen. But it did. It did work out because I had faith and because I trusted the information that I was getting. It's no different than if someone walks up to you and says, "Oh, don't worry, everything is going to work out okay." And in that moment, you don't believe that, but that person is telling you that. They're tapping into something that you're not tapping into for yourself. But again, the best place to start is with a simple tool. And once you start with that tool, it begins to strengthen your desire to trust the information that you're getting from your own wisdom. And that's what I love about when people tap into their intuition. How many times have you taken a test and you just didn't know the answer, but then you're like, let me think about this for a second. I tell most people, never think about it. Go to the first letter that popped up in your head. So if you're taking a test where you have to fill in those little dots or check off a box, go to the first one that popped out at you. Don't stop and think like, okay, let me think about this, because you obviously don't know the answer in that moment and you're trying to do a method of excluding what it could be. And that is one way, but the best way is to go with the first A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4 that pops up when you see it and you go, okay, that's it. I have a lot of fun. Here's a great way to practice your intuition is to watch something like, it used to be Jeopardy, or it used to be, I think it's, I can't remember the exact name of the show, but it's where they have to answer a question and it has A, B, C, or D. And I think they get a lifeline. I don't remember exactly what the show is, but I watch that show a lot, and I will guess the first number that comes up that just jumps out at me, and I have no clue what the answer to the question is. Of course, I'm seeing the 4 choices of the answers, and I would say 99% of the time I get everyone right. And that's because I'm allowing my intuition to guide me on that. And that's a great way to practice. If you want to practice your intuition in this manner, you will be able to start to develop it. It's like working out. It's like every day, you're lifting that weight. You're lifting that weight. It's like weightlifting, strengthening your intuition because you're practicing every day. And of course, every now and then you need to give yourself a break too, just like you do in weightlifting. You have to wait and let the muscle get strong. Same thing with your intuitive muscle. You can do the same thing. So I encourage you, tap into your intuition, even if you're skeptical, even if you think that what I'm talking about is just a bunch of baloney. It's not. I've lived it. I live it every day. I know it. It's truth. And I live a happy life because I do listen to my guides. I listen to myself, and I listen to spirit. I listen to divine energy because it's all there. It's for us. It's out there for us. And I want you to be able to experience that as well. So, the next time you have a major decision to make, or you're not sure about a relationship, or whether or not you should spend your money here or there, or if you should take this job or that job, or you should move to this place or that place, flip a coin, see what it tells you, and then pursue it, trust it. And sometimes when you do that, the universe begins to bring you other steps to take and opens doors for you that you didn't even know existed. So I hope you enjoyed all the information about developing your intuition.